I'm Vonetta Young, Investment Readiness and Fund Formation Advisor. And thank you so much for coming to the Emerging Manager Roundtable today. We are recording, so we want everyone to have access to this great conversation that we're about to have with our friends, Laura Sims, who is one of the Emerging Manager Roundtable community's very own, and her colleague, Donnett Campbell from SS&C, giving us the lay of the land of fund administration today. So please do feel free to come on camera to ask your questions or pop them into the chat. This is the Emerging Manager Roundtable community, so we love seeing your faces and having you as a part of the conversation. So Laura and Donnett, thank you so much again for being here. For just to save time, I'm going not to read your bios, but to encourage everyone to go to the VY Advisors LinkedIn page or Twitter page. You see how I did that to get you to go to my social media. So we're going to jump into the conversation. So for Donnett and Laura, if you could please share with us, so brass tacks 101, what is a fund administrator and what exactly do they do?
All right, great. That's a good question and a good start to the discussion, right? So, a fund administrator really provides back office support for investment managers. And what that means is they interpret the fund documents and transform them into numbers or reporting for their clients who are typically investors, right? So it's from setting up reading the offering documents of the fund and the LPAs and establishing the entities in a general ledger system, helping to prepare communications for that first call, clearing investors, providing AML KYC processing, anything to do with the back office operations, which would be documenting the operations of the fund in terms of with accounting books and records, and to prepare communication back to their investors with regards to those results. That's what the fund administrator do.
And one trend that I'm noticing among LPs is, I've been told that this is actually a relatively recent trend in the last 5 years or so, that more LPs are expecting you to outsource this sort of thing. So what's in it for the LP for them to, have this, for a GP to have this outsourced, and what's the benefit for the GP?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take that. And hey, everyone, good to see your faces. Thanks, Vonetta, for having us. So investors are increasingly advocating for an outsourced fund administration function for a number of reasons. One, investors into the private market space are becoming more and more sophisticated. Investors are wanting more transparency into the data. They are having higher and more complex reporting standards. Additionally, investors take comfort that a TPA, third-party admin, provides that independence. So in keeping the books and records of the fund admin doing the independence of performing fee calculations, providing consistent and impartial results back to the LPs, as well as outsourcing, adds that additional layer of review and oversight, since fund admins will typically have a robust framework of its own that's backed by cybersecurity controls and audit reports. And LPs are increasingly interested in more efficiencies, more automation that a fund admin can provide. And lastly, and very importantly, investors really want their GPs to be focused on core investing activities. And they take comfort that a service provider, a third-party service provider, can offer this specialized expertise in a variety of administrative tasks of running a fund, which allows the GP to really focus on raising capital, investment decisions. And then your second question, what's in it for the GP? So tons of benefits to outsourcing. Obviously, we're the biggest proponents of it, but first it provides the ability to the GP to meet all that all those LP and investor demands for the enhanced reporting, the transparency, the independence, allowing them to focus. It allows GPs to keep up with their peers as the industry continues to trend towards outsourcing. It allows GPs to better control their cost. So nearly all offering documents allow an outsourced administrator to pass through as a fund expense. So the cost of building in-house tech solutions can be prohibitive. The ability to buy these tech solutions requires liquidity, and the ability to build them out requires speed, skill, and that capital. So outsourcing really allows the GP to avoid additional operating costs spent on these systems, the associated IT and cybersecurity, while being able to keep up with industry best practices. And then, enlisting this specialized and admin outside support is typically less expensive than hiring, back office staff, middle office staff for those tasks. And, it allows also keep up with the ever so changing regulatory and compliance requirements. Admins typically stay ahead of the curve, staying on top of all, reg and compliance filings, and, makes sure their clients are aware of them. And scalability, fund managers can realize scale as their assets grow. They don't typically have to hire more back office staff if they're outsourcing to a fund admin, and it gives you access to more expertise as you look to broaden your strategies, broaden your structures. If you're in a closed end but you want to go a hybrid structure or an evergreen, if you want to enter, bring in offshore investors, or if you want to launch a fund in a new jurisdiction, there's different requirements there, and global admin typically has the expertise to take care of that. So in summary, benefits for the GP are outsourcing improves the operational efficiency, enhances the investor confidence, and reduces costs.
And that was a beautiful summary. That if I could boil that ocean even more, I would say sounds to me like you're saving a lot of time and money, and also adding credibility. I mean, I think the thing that I emphasize to my clients the most is this building of trust. And thank you, Brian, for nodding vigorously to, to back me up and saying this, that the ultimate goal of a GP is to establish trust with the LP. And I found it really interesting that using the outsourced fund administrator has been yet another way to do that. Which I just find that really, really interesting. So my next question is, given that LPs are now kind of expecting this, it seems to be a little par for the course at this point, what should an emerging manager be looking for in a fund administrator?
All right, so I can take that. So I think, one of the primary things, reputation, right? The reputation will help them to have confidence that the fund administrator they're in discussions with has the ability to do the job, understand the business they're in, understand what their requirements are, and do the job, right? So reputation is a good start, right? Another thing is, look at the expertise that you're interfacing with at the administrator. You gotta, some administrators are good at hedge, some administrators are good, like a global administrator as ourselves here at SS&C, they have subject matter experts in practically every strategy, right? In every type of investment strategy and structure. So one of the things you want to do is understand whether or not the fund administrator understands the business you're in, the type of fund you're looking to launch, and what kind of reporting requirements are required. So they need to have the subject matter expertise to do that. Yeah. Another thing, I think you should look for is whether or not they have the technology to support the services you're looking for. So I say technology is that they're not doing it in Excel. That's still one of the biggest accounting platforms out there, but they have good technology to be able to set up your management fee calcs, your waterfall, prepare the capital call notices, prepare distribution notices, technology that will help with treasury functions, just anything, regulatory reporting, anything that you think, because you're, as an emerging manager, you really want to think about, these are the things I require now, and I want to partner with a reputable admin house. As I grow my business, they can grow alongside me, and I already have a relationship with them, right? So I think them having the expertise, the ability, the understanding of what your platform is, the technology to support what you need, right? And last is the capacity, right? There are a lot of admin out there that they just don't have the capacity or the to facilitate a small administrator and grow with them. So I would say, combining all of those things, right? You do your evaluation, do your research, right? Understand the reputation of these administrators. And so, your limited partners, right, might already be receiving reporting from this administrator, be familiar with the administrator. So that will also help you to engage limited partners as well, investors in your fund.
Definitely. Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about that, but that does make perfect sense, that if it's someone that they're already working with, that just makes that relationship all the more seamless. That makes perfect sense. So I guess what's the other side of that question? This is how emerging managers, while they find what they should be looking for in a fund admin, what makes an ideal client for a fund administrator? What does a healthy GP fund admin relationship look like?
Yeah, so we love fund. We love emerging managers, right? New things. They tend to start small. We grow with them. We learn from them. They learn from us as well, in terms of unique strategies, right? And things that they do creatively in order to dominate in a space for themselves, right? So it's always great to work with emerging managers. One of the things that that's important to us is the accessibility of our client, right? We like our client to be accessible. It's a partnership. We're an extension of their business, right? We're just the back office operations for them. So, them being accessible and providing us, timely information to support them, them reporting in accordance with the agreements that they have with their investors, right? So they need to be accessible. Our clients need to be ensure that they deliver. They be in constant communication with us. Share, right? Transparency is going to be important for us to be able to record things timely, right? And then we want the good partnership of them, level setting with us and partner to resolve any issues, right? It's a partnership. We are just an extension of their operations, right? We're just the back office, right? They can focus on the investment strategy while we focus on documenting it and becoming their back office, right? So that's what makes a good client, right? The accessibility, quick decision making, transparency, and providing us with adequate information to do the work that we're contracted to do.
Definitely. And I like that, you kind of emphasize part of the point of outsourcing this is to focus on deal making and also fundraising. So, I always say, LPs aren't paying you to do all of these other admin things. You should be making deals and you should be fundraising. So what is a way, or should I say, can a fund administrator help with a fundraise? And if they can, how? can they help with a fundraise?
Sure, I'll be glad to take that one. So as you know, the fund admin is typically the second service provider that you'll engage with in the process of setting up your fund. The first being legal. So shout out to Brian and his team. So, you know, when you have your fund docs, your pitch deck, your one-pager that you're ready to take to market, the admin's name will be listed, which typically adds credibility to an emerging manager as they're going out to raise capital for all of the reasons I previously mentioned: independence, transparency, allowing the GPs to focus. So having that third-party admin is really bolstering your credibility when you're going out to the market. So especially when you choose to partner with an admin with that strong reputation in the investor community, with that track record for providing accurate, timely reporting to LPs, have those investor portals that they're accustomed to, an admin who has that SOC 1 in place, that's having their controls audited, they're continuously bolstering their IT and cybersecurity along with the market, and updating their technology, which is allowing you as the manager to keep up with industry innovation. And so all of this signals to investors that you're serious about your business, you're serious about launching your fund. And this is especially true for folks launching a fund for the first time. So they may be experts in a certain asset class, but have never been responsible for building out a back office, because that was either taken care of for them when they were at a large investment shop, or they were specialists in their field and they're new to the private fund space. So having an admin with a strong reputation helps build that trust, as you say, Vonetta, with those investors, and thereby helps, you know, with their fundraise. So not only helping with building your credibility, but it gives you as the GP peace of mind that your back office is being built out in a way that's in line with industry standard, that's, you know, keeping up with what the SEC requires of you, and allows you to be fully engaged in the fundraising process, which, as we all know, requires all of your emotion, time, energy, and attention. Additionally, certain admins offer products like BDRs, virtual data rooms, in which you can share your marketing materials to prospective investors, as well as applications like an electronic subscription module, which will digitize your full subdoc and creating a more efficient and automated approach to the fundraising process. I know our products are built in with AI technology, you know, to allow for a more robust and automated process. Excuse me. And then once the investor actually subscribes to the fund, your admin will take on the task of reviewing all the subdocs. They'll set them up in the system. They'll handle the capital calls and ongoing capital calls. And in that process, as well as throughout the life of the fund, you know, your admin will be that first line of defense for your LPs to answer any questions. If they're filling out a subdoc and it's the paper form, something's missed, or they have a government issued ID, their driver's license is expired, the admin is going to do all that and handle on your behalf of going out to the LPs, all of the admin work. So again, all of these things free you up to focus on what you do best: raising capital, finding deals, and making investments. So that's how, you know, an admin can help in the fundraising process.
And I love that sense of, you know, when you're at ease, your LPs are also at ease. So I think that's something to remember. If you're not pulling your hair out, well, if you're pulling your hair out, your LPs probably are too. So this is a great way to make things a little bit more seamless. And I know, like, you know, or should I say, I know anecdotally and from clients, having not raised a fund myself, that, you know, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of, you know, things that can be very frustrating. So if there's something that can make life easier, if you can outsource it, by all means, please do. So I'm going to open it up for questions. I do have other questions that I could toss it the way of Donnett and Laura, but I'm going to open the floor here. So feel free to unmute, come on camera, ask your questions. You can pop it in the chat as well. Yeah, go ahead. I probably should have given you forewarning to be like, get your questions ready, but I got caught up in the conversation. Sorry. So anyone have a question for Donnett and or Laura? So I'll give you another couple of seconds before I ask yet another question that I've been thinking about. Okay, too late. So now I'm going to ask my question, which you mentioned, and something's very, very topical. You mentioned, fund administrators have had to stay abreast of the regulatory environment, and something that could not be any more prominent is, the war in Ukraine and what's going on with, with sanctions and all of that. So how does, a fund administrator generally, SS&C specifically, if you want, speaking to your own experience, in a time like now where this is like one more thing for fund managers to manage, and I imagine a lot of fund managers have never experienced something like this. What sort of light can you shed on how they should proceed in thinking about this?
So I can start, and then Laura, you can back me up, right? So, typical example is the war in Ukraine, right? And then there's, a lot of sanctions occurring as a result. And we, as an administrator, we check all the investors within our database against the sanctions list every night.
Wow.
So, and that's just a automated part of our platform. Once you're on our platform, your investors are in our database, they are validated against the sanction list every night. Wow. So, as a emerging manager, obviously you're not going to have this kind of technology to be able to, check, world check and all of these sanction lists and understand the current status of your investors. So this is where the fund admin comes in, right? We notify you, we will work with you to remedy the situation with regards to investors that are on the sanction list. And, it might be you're setting up the investor, you need to do AML KYC. That's just one check. But then a lot has been changing over the course during this war. So that's one of the ways that we as fund administrators are able to facilitate ensuring that adherence to sanctions that will occur out of that war. There's a lot of reporting, additional reporting, disclosure about risk and foreign currency risk, and the state of the world economy, and the fair values are based on a lot of interest rate that are tied to risk, right? And those disclosures are things that we are partnering with our clients to ensure that they're included in their investor communication, right? To keep them abreast of the risks that are out there, right? Those are things that we naturally do as administrators to keep abreast of the ongoing, current state of requirements and transparency that we have to give to investors. I must mention too, even recently, the SEC, they're putting out guidance. It's probably going to impact a lot of managers, right? And this new guidance that's coming out, it's talking about requirements for even small emerging managers to adhere to in terms of reporting.
Right.
What must be included in your partner capital statement? Fees must be there. Type of investment strategy must be there. The things you disclose to your investors as a emerging manager, now it's now being monitored by the SEC, and they want to ensure that there's certain requirements you disclose to your investors on a quarterly basis when you report to them. Like, what's the value of their NAV, right? They want transparency as to what the portfolio strategy is, what the risk strategy is in a portfolio, the geographic risk strategy, the type of strategy, and all the components of fees. And if they're related parties to you as a manager, fees, that's buried somewhere in the P&L, they want you to make sure you disclose that as well. So there's a lot of things going on out there that we as, I as a fund administrator, I have to, stay abreast because I have clients. I say to them, I say, hey, this is in the pipeline. We need to start thinking about capturing these components as we're recording transactions, right? We need to write it down, have it on the books and records. So when we're ready to report, we have the information on hand. So those are some of the ways in which, as a manager, we support what's ongoing, what's the ever evolving things occurring within our environment.
Wow, that's a lot. That is absolute. Oh, wow. My head is now spinning. Laura, did you have anything to add?
I mean, I think Donnett pretty well covered it, but I think she just highlighted the importance of, outsourcing and having it not just on the admin side of things, but having, a good lineup of service providers in place. I would say, a word to emerging managers and what we see is, to be able to effectively raise capital, which is kind of the biggest, hurdle when you're launching a fund for the first time, is, having the right service providers in place, stood up, which are really going to support you in that process and doing that early on and not necessarily waiting to do that, because there is an opportunity cost. I've talked to a lot of emerging managers. They went with the low cost option first. They lost a lot of brain cells going through issues. They ended up scrapping it and going with, both on the legal side as well as the admin side of things. So a lot of time wasted there. But again, every person's, manager situation is different. It's considering who your LPs are, who are your investors. Are you going after friends and family who may have a different need and appetite versus the institutional investors who are going to require a lot more of you as a manager? So
makes sense. Brian and then Henry. Hello, Brian.
Hi, how are you? Thanks, Donnett and Laura. This has been great. Quick question. What are you guys seeing currently industry-wide, and what are you guys using, anticipating with regards to crypto, blockchain, other fintech-related products into the fund admin space?
I guess I can start, Laura, and then you back me up, right? So I do see, quite a few fund managers, raising crypto funds, focused on a lot of this kind of technology. So I do see, a few opportunities in this space, right? Here at SS&C, we have a small amount of crypto funds, not a lot of them, and they're with those existing managers that that have decided to launch funds in this space as well, just to diversify their portfolio. We do see quite a bit of conversations going on out there with regards to the crypto space, and I do see quite a few funds emerging in the last couple of months.
yeah, just to echo that, obviously we saw a big rise in 2017, when there was a peak, and you've seen a lot of ups and downs in it, and still the interest is out there, people investing in Web3, crypto, all those things.
What about the use of blockchain from an administrator perspective or from an LP perspective? Capital calls, distributions, things of that nature, utilizing blockchain as opposed to currency or cash.
I can talk a little bit about. So we are constantly evolving our technology internally, trying to use some AI, some blockchain processes where we can, right? To be able to facilitate full transparency from, throughout the structure, right? So starting with the LP all the way down into the investments, right? The capturing of that information real time is what blockchain will facilitate. We've just real time, right? We have different strategies. Some assets, hard assets, like a real estate fund, for example, right? Information might not be necessarily available real time, turnover of tenancy, right? Stuff like that, right? That changes. And by the time that information gets up to the chain, up to the LP, a quarter has passed, right? So blockchain technology facilitates more real-time capture of information timely. And we are in discussions. We're trying to do that. It's quicker on the hedge fund side, right? All that is available on the market. We're looking at blockchain for ESG reporting, which is big out there. People want transparency on ESG. So we are here at SS&C. There is some utilization of blockchain technology for more transparency and more real-time access to information that would have, alternatively been slow. And those are the discussions we are in here at SS&C for the transparency related to the assets within the respective client's portfolio. And we haven't rolled out a significant piece of that technology, but we are a technology company, so I've had a lot of discussions with our in-house technology on trying to morph towards that.
Oh, thank you for asking that, Brian. That whole, I remember going to a talk about crypto in 2014, and by the end of the talk, I was like, yeah, no, I am just not going to understand. And sitting here before you in 2022, my feelings have not changed in 8 years. And yet that does make perfect sense of how, okay, it's actually facilitating information exchange in a much more efficient and faster way. That makes complete and total sense to me. If people explained it that way maybe 8 years ago, I might have actually been interested this entire time. Henry, it is very nice to meet you. What is your question?
Nice to meet you as well. So my question really revolves around understanding a little bit more about where my role as the investment manager, GP, ends and your role as the fund administrator begins. And I'm assuming that it's a very close relationship that has to happen, from the time I make an investment to what happens in the background with you. And then because of that closeness of relationship, how much can I expect being a small $20 million first-time fund manager?
So the way I like to describe it to my clients are, you're the decision maker, and I am the door, right? So the manager, the manager really makes the decisions, right? I am just a scribe, right? I am the scribe, and I support all your transactions. And in supporting your transaction, because sometimes your scribe is very useful, right? I will translate to you, this is what I think the decision you're making. This is how the decision looks. These are the results of the decision that you're making. But ultimately, right, so where the fund admin role stops is we do not necessarily make decisions, right? But we are the scribes, right? We are your back office operations. So I can support preparing the communication to your limited partner. You want to call capital? I'll support preparing the communication. I will, facilitate setup of the bank transaction to acquire the investments, process the treasury work, maintain the books and records, all the documents, right, related to the operations of the fund. Where the line, is the key decision making occurs with the manager, like a manager like yourself. So you'll sign off on the actual execution. I'll set up the wire transaction. Like I said, I'm the scribe, right? And you will authorize. So all the authorization and the decision making occurs on the manager side. But the admin will support the back office. I don't know if that answers your question, but
It does. And the second part was, as a small fund, how much attention do I, can I expect to receive? Again, because this is a close relationship, it's
Right.
almost, so we're actually, where we have it in our first fund where everything was in-house, a heavy burden. But now we're thinking about, outsourcing this, but I'm, conflicted from the standpoint of, well, we work so closely with it in-house. How close is that relationship that we can, develop with an outsourced fund manager?
So I, varies, right? We have clients who wanted to leave them alone and they see them in a week. Like we force them to talk to us, right? And then we do have clients that as frequent as or clients want to speak, we're available. Because the reason for that is genuinely the fund admin is your back office, right? So as frequent as you need to speak, then your back office needs to be available. So there'll be recurring a standardized process, right? Because we are in the business of standardizing our processes. So there will be some recurring things like we need to speak at least once bi-weekly or once a week, depending on the volume of your transactions. And then if we need to speak more often than that, then that will occur. You're talking about a transaction, you think this is how it's going to be bookkept, and it's going to have equity and debt to it. It's going to impact the way we need to record it. Let's talk about it when you're setting it up. We're available to talk, right? So it's no different than your internal back office, with the exception of we don't make decisions, right? We just support the decisions you make.
And Henry, I just want to add one thing to that, because I feel like I'm pulling something out from your question. You're saying with you being a $20 million fund, and what I see a lot is, first-time fund managers, they think, okay, how important am I going to be at an SS&C, a large platform? Well, not all admins are created equal. We're set up in the way that we want to be the extension to all of our clients. We treat them, you're on the same platform, the same level of service that Donnett is describing, and other admins are also set up that way. I know it's not all about SS&C here. So as you diligence the admins, just inquire, how are they set up? If the relationship is important to you, make sure you're asking those questions, because there's other admins out there that are a low cost provider, but aren't going to give you that white glove touch where, at a firm like SS&C or other boutique setup type admins, you'll have the name, the numbers where you can pick up the phone and call them. So.
Yep.
Wonderful. So can I just thank Donnett and Laura again very, very, very profusely. And thank you, Brian and Henry, for your great questions too. Thank you, Donnett. Thank you, Laura, for showering us with your wisdom and just really giving some insight into, I think people know about fund administrators in the sense that they know everyone has one, but perhaps it wasn't sure of ultimately all of the value that fund administrators bring. So I really do thank you for bringing that to light.